public information meeting on the proposed 365-day homeless shelter, recorded December 11, 2025.
An answer about a proposed 365-day shelter that the city will be participating in. As a matter of fact, we asked the Finance Committee for a grant for $150,000 to acquire the building, working with a group called Partnering Together to operate the facility as a homeless shelter and service center. The representatives from Partnering Together are here. They will be speaking later. Alderperson Boozy, this is his district, so I'll give you the floor if you wanted to say anything about the intent and goal of and why you asked for this meeting.
Yeah, so when this came up or came on my radar, being in my district, I really wanted to make sure that there was a session for the public to be informed on the intent, the purpose behind it, the folks behind it, the city's interaction, and really make it transparent for people to see and have their voices heard on the subject. There has been an effort behind this for some time, so really wanting to have that out in the open and show my support for the project as it stands.
Great, and this is being recorded. We don't have a Zoom option tonight, but it is being recorded, so that video, when it's completed, will be available on our website at stevenspoint.com for those who couldn't make it tonight and hopefully answer some of their questions. So we thought we'd start out with explaining what many see as the issues we're dealing with. Homelessness is a problem. It has been a problem since the dawn of time. Adam and Eve were homeless. Jesus was homeless. There was books written about it in the 20s. It's a lifestyle for some. And for some, they're forced into it for circumstances beyond their control. Regardless of the cause, however, every community has a homeless issue. They handle it in different ways, and believe me, we've talked ad nauseum at some of our meetings about the different things we can do to solve some of the symptoms of homelessness. Solving the problem, most people will agree, is unattainable because it's been going on forever. But what we need to do is address the symptoms, provide the help for the people that need it and choose to accept it, and then have a mechanism in place to enforce it for those who won't follow the rules or are unable to follow the rules that society has set forward. What most people have seen is an increase in the visibility of the homelessness problem in Stevens Point, and that's because the numbers are going up. The locations for those people to live their lives is not changing. We have the Salvation Army. They have a finite number of beds and almost always full. They have rules as well there, sobriety and hours of operation, those sorts of things. So that wasn't enough. Several years ago, there was a group that came and wanted to open up a warming center at night. Prior to that, we didn't have any place other than that Salvation Army for people to go, especially in the winter. So over the process, they applied for and were granted a conditional use permit from the city of Stevens Point to operate a warming center from November 1st to April 1st. I forget what the original occupancy limit was. 12. Was it 12? Okay, and we recently increased that to 20 because there's a significant need. And that was held in the basement of a church with consent of the owners of the church. The city really didn't have anything to do with that other than allowing the conditional use permit. Part of that conditional use process was making sure that facilities were adequate, that there was a set of rules. They presented the rules at the council meeting for the conditional use permit. And that's been operating with success, I would say, for what, 6 or 7 years? 10? 10 years. 10 years, okay. So it's been operating successfully. The issue there that some people see is that it is in a downtown location. At one point, the Franciscans downtown opened up, and they provide some services for the unhoused population as well. a warm place to sit sometimes, meals, things like that. The library happened to be another congregating place because, again, it was warm. It was a place to sit down and a place to charge cell phones or what have you. So downtown just kind of became the place where people sat when they didn't have any place else to go. That's not illegal. As a matter of fact, we encourage it. We put up benches downtown for people to sit. We have events that encourage people to bring a chair. Heck, you can even have a drink if you want. Come listen to the music on Wednesday nights or Friday nights or Corn on the Curb or Discover Downtown. We encourage people to hang out downtown. What we don't encourage and what we have an issue with are the people who have to bring everything they own with them everywhere they go, or leave it somewhere, usually somewhere obvious where people can see it. There's some seats up here. There's a segment of that group, just like with almost any other group, that doesn't like to follow the rules. And we had issues with public urination, littering, a couple of cases of vandalism, and worse. So we started talking about how can we address some of this stuff. The resources are downtown, so that's where a lot of the people will stay. They're going to be close to the resources. There's the bus line there, and the Franciscans, and the library, and the warming center. What can we do? We worked with a host of groups over the last 5 or 6 years trying to address some of these issues. Limited success because the rules have to apply for everyone. Just because you don't have a job or maybe a place to stay or maybe you don't look quite as dressed as the rest of the society, that's not illegal. And we need to be responsible to that as well. Everybody has rights until you violate the law, and then we have issues. The police department has been tremendous in assisting, doing checks and using the ordinances that we have on the books when we can to try and gain compliance. But again, it's a small group of that population that we frequently see. Working with the downtown business owners, what can we do? The consensus was the services are there, so that's why they're here. Addressing the symptoms, we came up with the idea of putting in lockers. I went with Officer Radsick, who's our community resource officer, deals almost on a daily basis with all of the unhoused population. And we went around and asked him, said, listen, instead of having to carry your stuff with you everywhere you go or leaving it somewhere, if we bought these lockers and gave you some real simple rules, would this be something you would use? Overwhelmingly, it was yes. Ideally, we wanted to put them in this 365-day shelter. We had looked at a couple of places to put those. We wanted to make sure they had access to them as frequently as they needed to. There was a group that was operating in another building. We thought maybe they could manage it. None of those things worked out. But we did manage to get some donations, and we got the lockers ordered. Took 4 months to get the lockers in, but by that time we thought maybe we'll have that 365 shelter going, and whoever's doing that, we can put the lockers there. Well, they came in and we didn't. So we looked at where we can put this. We wanted to make sure that it was accessible and movable. So we chose the building on Water Street, which was where One Big Tent had operated out of, put them on the outside of the building, and they're all used. All of the rules that we put in, and there are very few, have been complied with, and they provide some benefit. Did it fix the symptom? No. We still have stuff that people have and scattered down by the bus station because all of the lockers are full now. And that's it. That's all we have. So those other people have to carry their things with them, and there are a few that choose not to use the lockers. In talking with others, trying to figure out what's going on, they're generally the people who don't want to follow the rules to begin with. So they don't want to risk getting caught for something potentially, even though there's no spot checks on those with those lockers. It's still the intent that when the 365 shelter opens up, we'll move the lockers to whatever that location is. That's the most suitable. I would guess somewhere around May, the police chief, myself, and Community Resource Officer Radsick started talking about where we might be able to find a 365 shelter. Does anybody remember where the barber's shop was? It's right on the other side of the underpass. He sold sewing machines out of there. When that came for sale, we looked at that. Yeah, it's got a kitchen, it's got a big open area where their sales floor was. So that's something we could do. The price was pretty high, and before we took a couple of groups on a tour through it, they said no, it wouldn't work for us running it. So that one fell through. Then it was a while, and we came up with 3 or 4 other locations that we thought maybe this will work. We took several groups, and I should probably list off of some of the nonprofits, and I know I'm going to forget some, but we have Partnering Together is the most recent. We had Evergreen Community Initiatives. We had, God, I'm forgetting them already. I had them written down. The Craig Schuler. What? Transact Hope, that's the one I was thinking of. And CAP Services, One Big Tent. There are a lot of people in this community, which always makes me proud. There's a lot of people in this community that will step up and help. All you got to do is ask. So we had lots of groups that were willing to get involved, and we took several of them on tours of these buildings. Most of them got ruled out. This building that's being proposed was the one that came closest. And I think we did 2 or 3 different groups on that. So we don't own any of the buildings. And this one appeared to be in a price range that was palatable. So we started talking with the owner. What do you do with it? Is there something that, you'd be willing to part with? That took a couple of months. Right now it's primarily used for personal items and trivia. But in talking with the owner and explaining that this would hopefully someday be a 365-day shelter, that was intriguing to him and his family, and they were supportive. So we started looking at, okay, what would it take to make this building usable as a shelter? We looked at another building in the downtown area as well, a little further south of downtown, not as far as this. That one had another business in it, and that triggered a bunch of inspection things through the state that needed to be done. That one was also ruled out just because there was a lot of things that needed to be done there. Anyway, so we started working on what would it take, getting our inspection department involved, going through the state building code, the uniform building code, the commercial building code. You would be surprised how many books comprise building code in the state of Wisconsin. It's insane. And that right around that time is when Partnering Together stepped up and said, we really want to do this. We even got quotes. Michelle Goldman's here in the back. We got a quote for running a 365 shelter. What would it cost? We got Tiffany Mallory gave us a quote. What would it cost if you were to run this? Because these aren't city operations. We are involved, but they're not. We don't have the staff to run it, nor do we have the people and the resources that are trained to do these sorts of things. But Partnering Together stepped up, so we had a couple of meetings. They got an architect on board and working with our inspection department. That process alone was another couple of months, making sure that you had exits in the ADA. If you were going to use it for occupancy, you needed a certain number of restroom units. Based on the population. You needed a certain number of shower heads based on the population. We wanted to make sure that there were sprinklers, laundry facilities. I think that was it internally. And then, of course, we were cognizant of the neighborhood. It's not a heavily populated area, but there are residences there among the businesses. So we looked at what it would cost to put a privacy fence around the facility. I think we went with 8 foot, and that came back at about $22,000. So again, that process then took several months. The owner was still hemming and hawing about what should we sell it? If so, how much are we going to get for it? How much should we ask? And we couldn't give that number until we knew what the improvements were going to be in working with Partnering Together. So once we had that, and that's a little over $50,000 in and of itself, just improvements. Higher? I'm not including the fence, but the improvements aside. Okay, it's a large number. So then we went back to the owner of the building and said, listen, this is what we have to stick into it to do what we want. Here's kind of what we're looking at. And we made an offer. That took a couple of days, and he came back and he said, yeah, I think that can work for me. Partnering Together's goal is to have the facility ready by April 1st, when the nighttime warming center closes. So in order to do that, anybody who's in any sort of remodel market knows that, okay, well, it's going to take you probably 30 days to close on the property. Once you do that, even though you have a list of everything you want done already, you have to find a contractor that's willing to do it, raise the money to pay for those things, and get the contractor scheduled to be completed then by April 1st. That is an aggressive timeline. So the first thing we did is the day after, we had a verbal agreement from the owner. I asked the clerk to schedule a special meeting so we could bring it to council, because council hadn't heard about any of the prices or any of this stuff either, because we didn't know until we had that verbal agreement. That was when the council was first introduced to it, and then we are along that process. So the finance committee recommended the grant, funding the grant to purchase the building. The negotiation for the contract with Partnering Together, as far as the details, hasn't been worked out yet. We haven't even really talked about it. But generally speaking, we want to make sure with our investment that there's a benefit to the community. And that is going to be moving those resources out of the downtown area into one location, providing all of those services generally in one location. This spot is close to grocery stores, close to a laundromat, close to the tobacco outlet, and it's on a bus route, and
HHS.
Health and Human Services, right? And the
Noble Clinic is pretty close.
Noble Community Clinics is, yeah, you'd still probably have to take a bus there. But there's a lot of resources that are available from this location that are easily accessible. It is not terribly visible. The building itself is set back. When I mentioned it to a few people, they weren't even sure where it was. And most importantly, and I believe that's still the case, Franciscans, who provides those services downtown, has tentatively agreed to consider moving their services down here, pulling it all out of downtown, giving it one location that could provide daytime and nighttime services for the population. So that's where we are today. The site is underutilized at this point. The owner has agreed to it. We are looking to fund a grant to Partnering Together to purchase the building, and then Partnering Together, that group, would be responsible for all of the operations. The only other thing that they would need is a conditional use permit, similar to what the nighttime warming center has now. That conditional use permit process would say that would be where the council would review what rules, who's going to be running it, what are the hours, making sure the police department's okay with it, the fire department's okay with it, and those sorts of things. So that, in a very large nutshell, is the history over the last couple of years. What I'd like to do now is ask that the group Partnering Together step to the lectern and give us an idea of what your thoughts are and what you hope to achieve with this. Yeah, we'll take it from there. I think I covered everything, right?
Yeah.
And introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Greg Hansel.
I'm Jane Johnson.
I want to make a clarification on something Mike said that is not quite right, so
Okay.
that people know. So the space we're talking about is only going to be used for the overnight center. Okay, the day center, we've already started moving. One big tent is into the day center at Salvation Army. They're already there because the Salvation Army is not using all their space during the day, as you're aware of.
Okay, Greg, I wasn't aware of this until this moment.
Okay, well, I talked to you about it, but that's okay.
Okay.
So the plan would be to have the overnight shelter run there, as it is now, from 8:30 at night till 6:30 in the morning. Michelle is here. She's doing now. There are very specific rules that are dealing with that. When the shelter first started, it was at the Episcopal Church in Stevens Point, and I was principal at St. Steve's, which is adjacent to that. And one of the concerns at that time was, what about these people who are neighbors, but with the children? And so we got the agreement that they would be out of that building, Episcopal Church, by 7 o'clock. And then the group said, well, we're going to have them out of the building by 6:30. So there wasn't any issues that we had to deal with that way. There are specific criteria that are used when people come to the warming center. It's very straightforward. People are breathalyzed to make sure that they can use alcohol, but they can't be over a certain limit. If they're too intoxicated, then they're not allowed in. When they get in the building, they're wanded to make sure that nothing dangerous is coming in with them as well. And then they have a meal, they sleep, and then at 6:30 in the morning, they get up and they leave the area.
Hey everyone, I'm Jane Johnson. I'm the Episcopal priest in town. I was the priest who was at the building when it first started on Church Street. And I'm the president of One Big Tent. I'm part of Partnering Together. I have been working with our unhoused neighbors since I've been here. I've been in Point for almost 15 years now. I know some of you are scared. Some of you are worried, concerned for your safety, security, your property. Our neighbors, who sometimes don't act maybe the way we wish they would, are living in constant trauma because poverty is trauma. It doesn't really matter the reason why. We don't get to judge on the reason why, and let me tell you, it's multi-layered for every single one of them. And when the behaviors that we wish weren't part of what they choose to do come out, they come out because they live without security, without shelter, without safety. And when you live like that 24/7 in constant survival mode, you're not going to get best behavior. Now, in an ideal world, everybody can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, but that world does not exist. That is a pretend world. Every world religion understands that, and that's why all the world religions are designed that way. And if you're not religious, I don't care. This is about being good humanist. We all do better when everyone in the community does better. Having a place for our unhoused neighbors to go, yes, during the day, for wraparound care, like we're starting at the Hope Center with the help of Salvation Army and all the community partners involved, will help them to give them somebody to accompany them and those who can find a pathway forward. But that's going to take time because, again, they're living in trauma. They're living without security. They're living without safety. I know of 7 folks who are sleeping outside tonight, and that's the plan for all weekend. So, what can we do about that? We can figure out ways to provide these traumatized people security and safety, because we can't ask them to do better until they have that. We cannot expect them to do better until they have the basic needs that every human being needs. I am so glad that you are able to provide that for yourself and for your family, but we have neighbors who cannot. And that is our obligation as a community to do so. And you know what that means? It means you will be safer. It means you will be more secure. It means your children will be safer. It means your children will be more secure. I live here. 2 of my kids live here. All 5 of my grandkids live here. This is what we're working to provide. A place they can go during the day, where there's caseworkers, where there's neighbors who are looking to help them, where they can get warm, where they can cool off in the summer, where they can be treated as human beings, remember who they are, and at night that they can sleep in shelter. and they have a place to put their stuff, and they can build relationships with folks who are willing to walk with them. We are asking you to stand behind us and support that, not just for those neighbors, but for your safety and your security and the wellness and the wholeness of this entire community. And if you have grand ideas about it, come, join us. We'd love to work with you. But these are our neighbors. And if you say, not in my backyard, they're already in your backyard. Where do you think they are during the day? Do you think they're under the sidewalks? They're right outside your door. Would you rather have them be right outside your door with folks trying to help them, or just on their own? Because that's the alternative.
Thank you. We'll get to public comment in a bit. Greg, anything to add? Okay, no.
Lost for words, Greg.
We're here to explain what we're trying to do.
One of the things, too, is that with the two different locations, the idea is to have a day center at the Hope Center where Salvation Army is, so people won't be in one spot all the time, which I think is easier for everybody, too. We've been working with the police for how long, Jane? Over a year, right, on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've been, asking
Can we
them.
please try and keep the comments down?
We've been
There'll be time
asking
for public
them
comment.
for their suggestions as well, and I would hope we're counting on the police continue to working with us on this too.
Thank you. If you guys want to sit probably close, because I think there's going to be questions about what you're going to run. The other thing that I want to point out that is pretty critical to this is that the police department has proposed a couple of ordinances over the years. The most recent one that was brought to our attention was what we're calling it a no camping ordinance. Thank you, John. Yeah, we'll have to fix that at some point. A no camping ordinance. It was originally introduced April, May, something like that, earlier this year, with the intention of, once the 365 shelter was established, that council committed to adopting that no camping ordinance, which basically prohibits camping, camping supplies, materials that are related to camping, anywhere in the city, effectively. The logic behind that, at least from my perspective, was you can't tell people you can't camp here. It's easier to do that if you have an alternative. We have a 365-day shelter option. You can go there. But what you can't do is you can't camp at the bus stop on Strongs Avenue. Or you can't camp at Mead Park. That's what the intention is. So the council has committed to that. As soon as we have a location for an alternative, the council is committed to adopting that no camping ordinance, which covers the people that are unwilling or unable to follow the rules that I had mentioned before. All right, so in an orderly fashion, we'll ask anyone with comments or questions to step up to the lectern, state your name and address, please, and either provide testimony or ask your question, and we'll do our best to make sure that we can get them answered with the resources we have here. Come on up, Mike.
I have a bunch of questions.
We'll try and get them all answered.
My name is Mike Disher. I live at 2616 Price Street, but I own a commercial property about a block or two away from this. It's now called Ansay and Associates Insurance. Its address is 2916 Church Street. A couple of questions. Now, Greg, when you at 6:30 when you close up for the day, you force them out. And what if they don't want to go to the Hope Center? Do they just hang around on the south side?
Well, no,
Greg, anybody who's speaking, I need you in front of a microphone, otherwise the recording can't pick it up.
Sorry.
And Mike, please, yeah.
questions and I'll answer.
Can you get closer to the microphone, Greg?
Yeah.
If at 6:30 when you shag them out.
Right. So what's happened the last 10 years is when they get shagged out, they all do leave. And there's not been an issue with that.
That's not the question. The question is, where do they go if they don't want to go to the Hope Center?
Well, right now, where do they go? A lot of them will go to a gas station in the morning before things open up. Franciscans, which was never set up to be a gathering place for the homeless, was a spirituality center. It's going to go back to that. So the meal is going to be at the Hope Center. The services will be at the Hope Center. So I'm assuming people who want that help will go there.
Or they could hang around in the playground at the school that's a block and a half away.
Well,
No, actually, they couldn't, Mike, because that's private property.
Okay, but,
Any more than I could hang out in your business.
and when we talk about friends and neighbors, is the guy from Tennessee who's homeless in Stevens Point and who said, this is a great place, I'm never going home again, is he our neighbor?
Yes.
Hang on a minute, let me finish, please.
Hey,
Yeah, let's do this orderly.
you want your turn or not?
What about, and I get this from a really reliable source. What about the people from Wisconsin Rapids and Marshfield who are brought to Stevens Point by the local jurisdiction police departments and said, this is where you belong? Those are our neighbors?
Yes.
We should be responsible for them?
Yes.
What do you say to the actual neighbors? And I've spoken to a real estate agent whose property values in that area, especially those properties close to next door neighbors, that will drop to the bottom of the bucket.
I say I lived next door to the warming center for a year.
But you don't anymore.
And so did my neighbors, and their properties did not drop.
But that's because they didn't try to sell them.
Mike, we're going to try and keep it as,
I know.
I don't need personal arguments back and forth.
And I have one other
Ask some questions, we'll get them answered.
These neighbors are already in all the places that you're talking about. They are already everywhere, all over town. Where do you think they are during the day?
We've heard your side. Let us talk a little bit now, okay?
Mike, hey,
I'm serious.
I can clear the room pretty easy.
It's okay.
We are going to maintain decorum, we are going to be respectful, and if you can't do that, don't let the door hit you.
It's okay. It's okay. Let them have their say.
No, it's not okay. This is a meeting, and we will be respectful and maintain decorum,
I am.
or it will end.
I understand that. I'm trying to.
What
but
questions you got,
I
Mike?
don't need to ask a question and then get lectured. The biggest concern of mine is less than 40% of these people actually are from Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Less than 40%.
Where do you get that?
From a very reliable source, ma'am, and I promised I would not give out the name.
Okay, but sir,
Jane, let's not get into the back and forth. Say your piece, Mike, and I'll get your questions answered if there's questions involved.
And property values. I don't think anybody in this building, in this meeting, would say, I'd love to have you next door to me even though my property value is going to drop by 40 or 50%. Last question. How many people on the, what's it called, the name of the group?
Partnering together?
Partnering Together. How many of you people from Partnering Together actually live in Stevens Point?
Okay.
Where, you live in Plover, Town of Hull?
Stevens Point.
So what, about 3 of you? Okay, thank you.
No.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. We also don't know how many people from Partnering Together are not here. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Back in the old stomping grounds, huh?
Yeah, kinda. No name or anything?
We need name and address, please.
Okay, Kevin Reuter, 3364 April Lane. I'm not, I was a police officer for 27 years in this community, 6 years as a police chief, so I do have some expertise in this matter. And Mayor Wiese is absolutely correct. This has been a historic problem for years and years and years. And what was different when I was chief and officers, we enforced the ordinances that we had at that time as far as loitering and moving people along, which has been since also picked up by the Supreme Court that we can do that. The questions I have are very simple. As this has been going on for a couple of years, and I don't think anybody really knew what was going on. Is there partnerships with the Monroe House? Is there partnerships with the Transact Hope? Is there partnerships with the Salvation Army, Mid-State Independent Living, AODA groups, NAMI, Family Crisis Center, various veteran organizations? Have they all been interviewed and asked how things are going in that thing? And the other thing I want to ask is, has anybody interviewed these people that are homeless or unhoused? I don't know what the correct term is, I'm sorry. But have we interviewed them? And Mike Disher mentioned coming from outside the community. Yes, When I was police chief, I would talk to the chief in Wisconsin Rapids who would drop people off at the Salvation Army every single night almost. And we had discussions of that. So yes, it's going to be a central Wisconsin shelter, just so you know. You provide resources, and I'm not saying, and I'm not against this, don't get me wrong. I don't think this is the best location. 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, I requested the Common Council to put up lights to help children cross that very intersection where this is going. And now we're going to have a shelter there that kids are going to be walking by who are being led across the street from McKinley School. I don't know if that's a great thing or not, but so my big question is, have we really thought this through? And one of the things is affordable, doing a little bit of research, not a whole lot. There's was it the National Council of Mayors or something of that nature?
There's a bunch of different groups like that too. National League of Cities, the Mayor's Innovation Project, there's a bunch.
Yeah. One of the things that they identified was the number one cause of unhousing is affordable housing in the community. Now, I don't know how we can have affordable housing. I got my tax bill today. So that's all waiting in your mailbox. You'll be really happy when you get that. So, I mean, we can't make affordable housing for people if the taxes keep going up and up and up, and landlords who are renting have to pay their bills. So I think there's a lot more to be looked at and take it back. Now that the community now knows about it, maybe we can actively work together. But I don't think the location as stated is the right spot. I don't believe that, because you're dispersing people all over. Now, is the Monroe House still up and about?
I don't believe so, no. Again, separate organization, separate owner.
I guess my point is there's a lot of organizations out there, and we have to see if they'll cooperate.
The Monroe House and Oxford House?
And this is my daughter, and she's going to be, I told her not to be mean. So I'll be right behind her.
Kevin, and I'm sorry, before you get started, because Kevin, we value your opinion. I mean, you served the city of Stevens Point and its citizens for decades. Where would you consider putting something like this?
Well, I agree that you have to find a place that is near a bus stop, near all the things that you said, but in a residential neighborhood, as all these people can attest, or many of these people can attest, is not a good location. And the fact of the matter is that building that is there is right tight up against the border. That's a very small property.
Yes, small.
And to kick them out at 6:30, they're not going to leave that property right away. Yeah. And then you got people that live in that neighborhood that are going to be concerned. As we always told people in the community when I was chief, if you see something like people walking around when it's dark out and stuff, give us a call.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have those calls.
Good.
So,
I appreciate the insight, Chief. Seriously,
thanks.
I do.
Okay, I'm going to try and be nice because I'm 10 blades of grass between that concrete and my house is right next to it. You can see it right there. I'm 2849 Henrietta Street. You bring up that you're going to put up 8-foot fences. I can still see over it with 3 of my windows. So what's your solution? I mean, I'm not going to have any privacy. I'm this far between the building itself. That's how close it butts up. So what's your solution on that? Are we going to put higher fences if we request as neighbors? I mean, that's a concern. I don't have privacy. I've got 3 windows that are showing. You know, what are some concerns is the neighbors are right there on the other side. My neighbors across on the other side next to me, on the other side of that concrete, are about this far as well. I mean, that's a concern. We have no sidewalks there on that side for the entrance of it. So, I mean, what are your solutions because my privacy is now being impacted. Don't get me wrong, as being a part of this community, I want to be helping. I donate my time and I do volunteer work around here and I donate money and all that. But I want to make sure that my personal home also has its privacy.
Sure.
So, I mean, do we have solutions in that? Am I able to, I mean, not just this meeting, but I was unaware that this was happening until I saw it on Point Metro and I'm being tagged in it on Facebook. So my question is, you know, are these suggestions, including my neighbors, you know, are we going to be able to put our input on this, if this is what's going to be moving forward? Are we going to be able to, you know, have some say in this and being able to say, well, we don't want an 8-foot fence, can we put up a 12-foot fence? What about, like, I know it's been mentioned prior, you know, about the value of our homes. I mean, that's everything that I've built for myself. I'm 30 years old, I live alone, I'm a female by myself. You know, I have concerns being by myself in this home. You know, do we have the answers for all that? Like my dad said, are we doing interviews? Do we have all this figured out before this is in motion?
Oh, those are all very good points. I live in an older part of town too. The property lines are very close together. Are there neighbors looking in your windows now? I mean,
No.
that would freak me out a little bit if they're that close.
I mean, not now, but I'm just stating
I don't
that
think anyone looks at mine.
I have a 2-story house. I mean, I look out the window and that's what I'm going to look at. That's
And you
my
see your
land.
neighbors'
Yeah,
yards and
I'm
things like
this
that,
far.
too. Yeah.
I'm this far from the property.
So what would help?
I mean, my question is
12-foot
you're
fence I
talking
don't
about-
think is currently allowed.
I
but
mean,
is that what it takes?
I'm obviously just throwing numbers out, but you said something about 8-foot fences.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to still look out my window. I'm going to want my own privacy. I built a fence prior, but it's just a chain link. But, you know, I'm not going to, I have one access to my side of the house for my chain link fence that goes right to that parking lot area. I know some of the neighbors, I don't know if it's allowed. I don't use it, but I know some people use that parking lot. Like, I don't know if they've had permission prior. I'm not sure on that, but
Yeah,
I
it's
just
private
have a lot of
property.
questions because I only have this much, and I mean, between my house and this property. Like,
So what would help?
I mean, I'm coming to you. I mean, I think that we should have taller fences than 8 foot. I mean, I don't know if that's doable. I don't know. I think that my dad did suggest about interviews. I mean, what type of people are coming in? I mean, believe me, there's mental illness in my family, and I have a family member that's homeless. So I totally get it when people are struggling mentally and all that. Like, I completely support the idea, but I want to make sure for the safety of my home as well that we're going through a process of interviewing and making sure that, you know, people that are coming in is safe. Wanding them before they come into a building, they're still entering the area of where I'm at. That's all these concerns that you're putting a building in a location that it's still tracking possible, you know, as someone had mentioned that, you know, our neighbors are in their backyard, that this is in their backyard. This is my backyard. This is my backyard. So I'm just wondering, you know, what other things are we going to do because putting this in this location, like, you have schools there, you have the cinema. I mean, your best argument was that tobacco outlet. If you can smoke a cigarette and drink, then you should try and, you know, that's not a good answer for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's cinemas there, there's schools there, there's a lot of different things, there's a lot of people. I mean, other places, did we look at the Ruth Gilfrey Center, the old one that's by my house? That one's abandoned, and it's, you know, is that
It's not.
option?
It's not. The county owns that. They have every intention of moving back in.
They have, okay, so it's
As a matter
not,
of
they're
fact, I
not
think they're
over at
mostly in
that
there
strip
now.
mall anymore that they were at on Church Street?
So they actually voted through Space and Properties Committee to buy that building as well. They're going
Okay.
to use it as a temporary
Well, I'm just
courthouse.
saying, there's other abandoned buildings or other empty buildings around here. Was everything, every building in this, I mean, was it thoroughly looked at before you're putting it in a neighborhood?
And the answer is yes, it was. Someone online suggested Perkins. Well, great, that's $1.3 million. That's what it's listed
Yeah.
for.
I mean, I understand
your taxes
pricing
are
wise
bad
and all
now?
that too, but.
Can we address some
So
of the
wait, I just want to make sure she's had an opportunity to
I'm
ask
good.
all your questions.
But these, I
Okay.
think I'm speaking on a lot of behalf of my neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are also, like you said, I know where you live because I had an apartment by you and I saw you painting your house.
What do you
with me,
mean? You're living in my yard?
You know what I mean? Like,
fence. I need a big fence.
we're all very close knit together, and like these are. I'm sure that this is other people that are concerned too. I'm a single female by myself. Like,
It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern. I mean, so I'll let you talk now.
So you saw me
I'm going
painting
in
my
circles.
house.
You're doing
You
good.
saw me painting my house, but you didn't come help.
I didn't.
I would have fed you steaks or something. Thank you. You can sit down.
Okay.
Jane?
We want you to be safe too, and we want your property to be safe. So we would love to work with you and all the rest of the neighbors if this location is the one that works, because as the mayor said, we've been working for years to try to pull this together, and it's called Partnering Together, because right now it is one big tent. It's Noble Community Clinics, it's Catholic Charities for Case Management, it's South Asian Army, it is Stevens Point Community Outreach, it is Downtown Franciscans, a part of that called Lunch Partners, and we have been in communication with several other community resources in town, and the whole idea is that every community resource that is going to be helpful, that it becomes a network. Partnering Together is meant to be the connective tissue so that when anyone is struggling, and it's not just our unhoused neighbors, right? We have lots of neighbors on economic margins, or, it just takes, we've all experienced that, or at least I have. It takes losing a job, it takes an illness that puts you out, and you need some help. And so the whole idea is Partnering Together becomes this hub where any neighbor can come in, and our job is to listen to their story and to get them connected to the community resources. Some of the community resources will stay where they already are, but then we're the connective tissue that helps them to make that connection, and that they have somebody walking along with them as they walk that road to wholeness and wellness. So as well as we've already had a person volunteer to come forth and do some mental health first aid training for all of the folks that are at both sites. And so like anything else, right, this has been, I don't know, I've personally been, dreaming of this for 15 years, working at it for diligently for 5, knowing that everything's iterative. And that simply means you start and you do everything you can up front to make it as good as you possibly can, knowing that once it's underway, you're still going to have to tweak. You're still going to have to learn. We're still going to have to talk to our neighbors. We're going to have to make sure our neighbors are safe. We're going to have to make sure our neighbors involved, that they feel comfortable, that we are neighbors to each other. Right? And be that glue. And that's the whole point of this coming together. There are so many resources in this wonderful town, but for a very long time we've worked in silos, right? And part of what happened in COVID is at least we began to learn more and more about each other and what each other did, so that we're not duplicating each other, so that we can say, hey, we can't help you, but I know this resource can. And we're getting better and better at that. And Partnering Together is really that hub of working with our neighbors who are on the economic edges, either for a very long time or something just happened, and trying to help them by being good neighbors and utilizing the community resources that are already here, and then trying to figure out what the gaps are that are still in our community and how can we work together to fill those gaps so everybody can be safe and secure, and our community will be stronger for that. So did I answer most of your questions? I hope so. I hope so.
Thanks, Jade. Next. Seriously, we can't do that.
My name is Samuel Bavito. I live on Ridge Road. I'm a local business owner. I'm also a member of the session at Frame Memorial Presbyterian Church, which is where the Warming Center is hosted currently. I wanted to address some comments that I've heard already here tonight. I've also seen some online talking about the proximity to an elementary school. And I want to start by acknowledging the importance of protecting the children in our community. It is perhaps the most fundamental responsibility that a community has, is to protect its children. But I want to challenge some of the assumptions inherent in these comments. When a child is being abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, in some way, the data is quite clear. The vast, vast, vast majority of the time that happens, it is a close family member or an adult in some position of authority who is perpetrating that abuse. And we know this. All of you know somebody, or perhaps you yourselves have been in that position where it was a close family member, or it was an adult who had some position of authority who perpetrated abuse. My own abuser was an electrical engineer who's employed every day of his life until he retired. We all know about the scandals that have racked the Catholic Church, the Boy Scouts, the Southern Baptist Convention. We know that systems of power have a tendency to protect those in power, and that they often will use that as cover for their abuse. We need to protect our children. It is desperately important that we do that. This assumption that the homeless are just moments away from predating on our children is not backed up by the data. And when you see that assumption spoken in our community, it is very important that you speak out about it. We know when this happens. We know that there's a position of authority that is involved, the vast majority of the time. And when other people are saying, you know who the problem is? It's those guys that have the least power. That's really the problem. You're being had. We need to take security seriously. I think that is important. But this assumption that the homeless people are inherently a security threat, rather than neighbors that we can help, needs to be challenged.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Hull. I live at 2200 Rice Street, and it's interesting that you bring up sexual crimes because I was a child victim. I used to live on Blaine Street and was attacked when I was 13 years old. My concern is obviously for my property, but my biggest concern is McKinley School. Are these homeless, unhoused, are they being vetted? Because I know sometimes the Salvation Army will take in people that have recently been released as transitional housing. I'm concerned that there will be attackers in there. And my house is also very, very close. I'm right across the street from the food bank. I already have people loitering in my yard. I've got cameras up everywhere. I feel safe enough in my house, but I also have to stock my cameras. So I'm afraid that during the day when they are, shagged out or whatever, they're going to go across the street and they're going to be in my yard even more. So I'm hoping there will be a police presence. There's already a lot of speeding on Rice Street. I'm very concerned. I'm also concerned about my property values. If I choose to leave my house, how am I going to sell it? If I choose to rent my house, what am I going to do? You're really putting us in a predicament. So my concern is there a better place for them? Because I understand they have to go somewhere. I genuinely do feel bad, but I don't want that in my neighborhood. My thought is there a community property, perhaps closer to the police station, where we don't have to work so hard to monitor them, where we can all feel safer, not use so many resources, and maybe make transportation more readily available to them, so that if they do want to go somewhere, maybe they have free access to the bus or an Uber all dedicated to them. And a place that's, instead of residential, is more zoned city-wise and not affecting the people that live in that neighborhood.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Samantha Varga, 291 Lucerne Court, Plover. So I just wanted to come up here and say, I have worked in some capacity with the current warming shelter and the previous warming shelter for over 7 years. I am a single female. I live on my own. I am out and about on my own the majority of the time. Not once have I ever been in fear or afraid of any of the people that I have worked with through the warming shelter. fear often comes from misinformation or not understanding situations. What I have found through my time with the warming shelter and in my working with unhoused youth is that they don't want to be in the situation they're in. Some of them have chosen to live outside of shelter because their experiences in shelter continue to perpetuate the trauma that they experienced. It is important to create a safe space for those who are unhoused so they can start to heal and then in turn work on stability and housing. We can't expect them to be off of the streets when their basic needs are not met. And mental health challenges, addiction challenges, those cannot be tackled until their basic needs are met. The Partnering Together and the Warming Center are all places trying to help make those needs met so that we can start working on their healing and stability. It was mentioned earlier that housing costs is a big factor of homelessness. The data shows it. And that's not going to change anytime soon. And I honestly would live next to the shelter without hesitation. Right now, with the warming shelter, it is close to a school, not directly across the street. It is close, within walking distance to a school. It is close to businesses. There are rules in place that say the guests have to leave the property at 6:30 in the morning. They are not allowed to loiter on the property, and they follow that. Majority of our unhoused neighbors want to follow the rules and do what is expected of them so they don't lose that resource because they don't want to be in their situation. So I just ask that going into this, keep your minds open and look at all sides of things and try not to come at this proposal out of fear and work on really understanding what the cause and the root is. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Huggart. I live at 3050 Lindbergh in Stevens Point. I'm in the neighborhood of where the proposed homeless shelter is going to be. I say proposed loosely because it sounds like it's already a done deal, let's be honest. I do agree that the homeless is a crisis here and something needs to be done. My heart does go out to the homeless. A lot of us are one crisis away. My concern is, do we have the people in place to properly run the shelter? Do they have a background in social economy? Do they have a background in law enforcement? Do they have a background to keep this community safe? Because while all of this is grand and we can all be neighborly, if we don't have the proper resources both for the homeless and ourselves, it is a recipe for disaster. And we moved that disaster to a residential neighborhood where there's kids, family, the disabled that are going to be impacted. So before we move forward, I want to make sure that we have people with the proper training to provide the proper resources, not a big goal, not a big dream to make this happen. This has to be a reality. I was at the homeless open house when it opened before day one. And one of the directors, co-founders, I don't know, of SPCO was there and made a comment about how the city and the police wanted the homeless shelter to be open longer, past 6:30 a.m. But guess what? They don't have the staffing for it. They don't have the funding for it. So it's great that you kick them out at 6:30 and you make them leave your property. They leave this property, where they go? My property? That's not right. And I'm sorry, if this is on day one and they're already not working great in partnership with you, what makes you think they're going to do it at a 365-day shelter? This same co-founder made a comment about how she was afraid of the dark and hearing noises in the upstairs of the church. I'm sorry, but There's probably more noises on Church Street. Let's be honest. I don't know that I want that person right there directing that. So my ask is we make sure we have the proper resources in place for everyone. If this moves forward, please make it public who your liability carrier is and who your E&O director's policy is, because I want to make sure I have access to it to file a claim when this implodes. And while I love your sermon, and it's great that we can all be neighborly, you made a comment that there's 7 people, I believe, sleeping without a house this weekend. Why aren't you opening your door?
I'm meeting them tomorrow.
Jane, we're not going to get into the one-on-ones. You'll have another opportunity to speak.
This is a real question. You're asking us to be neighborly. Everybody's a neighbor, right? Why are these people on the street? Okay? There's rules in place. What happens when the homeless show up and they're intoxicated and you tell them, sorry, you didn't meet the rules, you got to get out? They're already in our neighborhood. Where are they going? This is a concern. And again, I heard that this property wasn't purchased, but yet we've already heard about an offer being made, estimates being done. That sounds like it's been purchased to me. What do you guys think?
Agreed. Disagree. Okay.
Can I just answer one of her questions?
Sure, Jane.
So one of the things that we are doing is partnering together is we are working with UWSP and with the School of Social Work and the School of Sociology, because they have a requirement to have interns for their students and volunteers before they enter into those schools. And so we're also planning on working with UWSP and their students as well, so that, as you say, we can make sure that we have enough folks on hand to see to not only to the neighbors' needs who are in the shelter, but to make sure the neighbor needs around the shelter are also taken care of. And I'm meeting with those 7 people tomorrow, so.
Thank you very much. To answer your question very bluntly, no, the purchase has not been made any more than I've already purchased your house. Okay, that's how it works. For those of you who agreed, please sell me your house. An offer to purchase happens, price is agreed upon, and then a transaction happens after that. That's the sale. When the deed gets signed, the offer to purchase gets accepted, signed. That's how it works. So you don't have anything if you don't have at least an idea of what the offer to purchase is going to entail. There isn't even one drawn up yet. Go ahead.
My name's Alyssa Huggard. I live on 3050 Lindbergh Avenue. I have really bad public speaking anxiety, so bear with me here. I was a volunteer last season and part of this season at the warming shelter. I had learned a lot, and so some of it's going to probably play a little bit of devil's advocate here. I see both sides of homelessness. I got a chance to meet some wonderful people who I care about very much, and you know, I do want to say both extreme kind of views are valid in a sense. There are people genuinely who do not have the ability to get to where they want to be because they don't have an environment no matter how hard they try. Mental illness and mental medical care is probably one of the biggest points of why homelessness exists. Yes, there are drug addicts. Yes, there are alcoholics. Yes, there are sex offenders. The sex offender fear is very real. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. There are a big portion of sex offenders that stay at the warming shelter. There are people with violent crimes that stay at the warming shelter. I went out and bought myself pepper spray and a taser to volunteer at the warming shelter. I didn't stop volunteering at the warming shelter, but I was going to protect myself. Yes, there were instances that could be scary, for sure, but I wasn't not going to have protection. I care very deeply about volunteering with the homeless population. I don't judge them. You know, they are people too. They do deserve to have caring individuals. They deserve food. They deserve housing and everything else. But to be realistic, you can't look at one extreme, they're all bad, and the other extreme, that they're all good and all need this place. Like, you kind of have to think about it. Now, there were instances where there were a couple times where some did get entitled because they have food. A lot of them eat very well. You know, they're given food via grants, via donations at the the warming center, you know, at Franciscans, everything else. And they did start to get entitled with that, to the point of where, like, I didn't want this for dinner, and it's like, look, you know, you got it donated. You eat what's donated. Like, we don't control that, you know? And so there is an instance, you know, thinking about early childhood development, and you have to have a stable place to live and to be able to take care of yourself in order to have good mental health care and not fall into the trap of addiction. That's true. But there is also true that, unfortunately, there are some individuals where you provide so much that they don't have a reason to get better, to get a home, to do all of that. So I just say that with experience. You know, I do have concerns about the individuals running it and who they are hiring. I do believe that needs to be addressed with the city as well, actually, to know who is running the shelter and what services they are providing, because if you do have criminals in your homeless care and you're also hiring criminals, you know, that's a concern too. But yeah, I just wanted to basically share my experience, let you guys all know kind of how I see things, how the things that I have witnessed, and I'm not pretending to know everything about the homeless. I've volunteered for a little over one season, but I just wanted to let you guys all know my experience with them, and they're not all good, they're not all bad, but they are people. And another thing I wanted to address is if you think about homelessness, where do they all congregate? Downtown, in every city, every single city. You have to have access to transportation, the laundromat. They get shower cards to go take showers at usually, I think it's Anytime Fitness over on Division Street across from like Toppers or whatever. You know, like, they have to have access to that. You can't banish them into a place that doesn't have access to people. Like, you can't just segregate them out. You can't push them out of town where they're around no one so they don't bother anyone. Like, they're people too, and they're going to congregate where their resources are. But I will also say, putting them near a school, a kids crosswalk, right next to a toy liquor store, in a residential area, not appropriate, not good. It's just not.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing those experiences. That was very insightful. I did some looking because they were talking about the proximity to the school. The existing shelter, what is this, Google Maps, I think it is a tenth of a mile from a grade school. In the 10 years it's been running, I'm not aware of any single incident involving the grade school in regards to the warming center. This one will actually be a quarter of a mile further away from a grade school. And we've had 10 years without an incident. Not saying that something won't happen tomorrow, but I just want to talk about that because of the proximity question that keeps coming up. It's over 3/10 of a mile away from a grade school, several blocks, way further away, a quarter mile, than it is currently.
And one house
Yes, sir.
from the school crossing, where little kids cross.
Yeah, kids cross here all the time. We've got a children's museum downtown. There's kids there all the time. Yes, sir.
Dave Zarnicki, 1017 Matilda Street, about a block and a half northwest of the property. I want to point out a couple contradictions that have been said tonight. Ms. Johnson made the comment that, actually they both made the comment that these people are going to get kicked out at 6:30 in the morning, but then there's counseling during the day. So now some of those people are coming back. It was said that if you are drunk or under the influence of drugs, you're not welcome in, but I'm guessing that counseling is for the drunks and for the drug abusers. So now they're welcome back in. You made the comment with a smile on your face, you're right next to a liquor store. We got drunks.
Never said they were right next to a liquor store.
You're
I said
absolutely
that
right.
the tobacco outlet was in close proximity.
You're right.
As is the laundromat.
There's two houses between the liquor store. You're 2 houses away from the liquor store, and in one of those houses is some kids that live, and directly behind the property is a house that have kids.
Liquor store? In the house. There's kids living next to a liquor store? No kidding. Wow.
Their parents, I mean, obviously.
Wow, that seems odd.
It's not the point.
Oh.
You made a joke that the liquor store was in close proximity, but now we're counseling drunks and drug abusers, and now we got a liquor store there. That's an issue. One thing you did a couple years ago that I thought was a very good idea was you gave the homeless people an address so that they could go out and apply for a job. You gave this a city address so that they could go and apply for a job. I'm just wondering if anybody ever got a job.
Yeah, I don't know.
Through that program.
No, we've got a pamphlet with all sorts of resources. Chief Reuter had spoke about that. All of the different resources that are available if you're a veteran or if you need food or if you're in an abusive relationship. There's a trifold pamphlet that Chief Cuso and his team put together that everyone gets. It's available to the public too. I think it's online.
So we had one person talking about the loitering. So now you kick them out at 6:30. They got to loiter somewhere. You got a liquor store, you got a school, you got a neighborhood. So you're just going to loiter. This whole conversation has been very, very obvious that all this is about is getting them out of downtown because you have a littering problem. So now all you've done is taken that litter problem and put it in our backyard. And who's the young lady that's got to look out her bedroom window at the litter problem? You know, you've just moved the litter problem. Just because you move the people out of downtown don't mean they're not going to litter anymore. They're not going to stop peeing in the corner. But in the summertime when the weather's good and they don't need that 365 and they're next door to a liquor store, so they get drunk, I don't need to go there because they're not going to let me in. But they're still in the neighborhood. They're still in the neighborhood on the streets and on the sidewalk. So, I mean, it just, and the neighborhood isn't where they belong. You laughed at $1.3 million for the Perkins building. It's not a residential area. I mean, everything is within a walking distance of a residential area, no matter where you are. Everything is within a walking distance, but it's not dead center in a residential area. You know, school included in that. So, and a busy street. That's the other issue, is the traffic and now people loitering on a sidewalk of a very, very, very busy street. So I just think residential area is a very, very poor decision. A lot of contradictions here though tonight.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify one thing?
By all means.
Counseling is not taking place at that same place. The counseling is taking place at the day center, which is on Briggs Street at the Hope Center, where One Big Tent already is. So what that location will be for the overnight center. We have a program called Bike Love, and we need a place to store our bikes. So that we're hoping to be able to store our bikes right there. But working with a case management, working with students from UWSP, working from One Big Tent, getting help from people at Noble Clinics. That's over at the Hope Center during the day.
Thank you. And Sean, Alderperson Morrow, sorry to put you on the spot, but you work with the Department of Probation and Parole.
Yes, I
do. If there are restrictions on a release, you can't be within 500 feet of a school, or you can't be using alcohol or drugs. I mean, all those things still apply.
Correct. Correct.
I mean,
and if there are, I managed the probation parole office here for 10 years. I still work for the Department of Corrections. I'm now in the Wausau area. If we have a registered sex offender that comes out, they're on a GPS unit, they have what's called an exclusion zone. So if they cross that exclusion zone, like let's say they go to a school, they cross into that school, an alarm goes off and they have a warrant. And that is shipped to the police. That's also shipped to the agent as well. So there are safeguards that are also in place for that. And if there are sex offenders that are released, the sheriff's department's informed, the police department's informed as well, and they also have a release plan. So like, where are they going to live? What services do they have? Where they can go? Where they cannot go, where they're going to also live. So there are a lot of safeguards that are already in place there. And you say, well, they just cut off the band. Eventually, if someone really wanted to cut off the band, they can, but those bands are super thick and it'd take a lot of time. And the minute they would even start to cut that off, there'd be a tamper, there'd be an alarm, and the agents are able to track them in real time just because they have that they have that GPS band on.
Thank you.
And one other thing, when the warming shelter was at the PIS Episcopal Church, my son was at St. Steve's, behind it. There weren't ever any problems there. It was really a non-issue, really. And right now, I mean, as Chief Reuter said, folks have been dropping folks off here forever because we've had a great Salvation Army. The joke was that they were worried about a slow-moving van at the Salvation Army because people would try to end up dumping their people off here. And some of that was, they have this service here. Great. Then they would say, I want to go to Point so I get this AODA treatment, mental health treatment, and so on. They would drop them off here, and then they would go to Salvation Army and go, I really don't want it, and then they'd want to stay. I mean, that's been going on forever.
It's been a while.
But with the Department of Corrections, though, I mean, there are safeguards that are in place. We have a halfway house that's right next door to jail. That works really, really well.
Great.
So there's a lot of stuff.
Whoever's next? Mike, I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak first.
Yeah. I'll wait.
My name is Sandy Williams. I live 2 doors down from the property. We actually have 3 properties, 2870, 2878, and 0 Henrietta, right next door to Alicia. I came here just for information because there has been such little information released about this, and I've been in the helping field for decades, and at first, I really did think that this kind of was a really good location, like has been pointed out, the laundromat, the grocery stores, right there's a bus stop, etc. And then I heard them say, Ms. Johnson say that this is only an overnight shelter, you close at 6:30 and everybody has to leave. I'm so conflicted because I don't want to be that person to say not in my backyard. But I worked downtown also for 10 years and know that when that warming center closed, we had people in the lobbies at our businesses and we couldn't get in. And so now I'm going to have those same people breaking into our garages or our porches. And it's not, I mean, it's a concern because I want to know what the plan is. What is the plan when the city buses are not running at 6 o'clock in the morning to get them to Salvation Army? Because that's a 10-block walk. My thinking was, okay, we have the shelter, they'll have the resources to buy the bus line, they can get where they need to go, and now to hear that it's going to be closing so early in the morning, that again displaces people back into our neighborhood. So if there is a plan in place, I would love to hear about that. Thank you.
Valid concern. Thank you. Anyone else for the first time?
Yeah, right here. I'll be nice too. I really appreciate everybody. I'm Kurt Bublitz, 1032 Matilda Street. And so I just live 4 houses away from where the shelter's proposed. I'm completely against it because of where it is, not what it would do. But they are also now releasing everybody back into the neighborhood. I do have concerns, and I live really close to the brewery. And the homeless live in that woods right back in there. Behind the brewery and that you see, and you'll see it. There'll be tents back there sometimes. Because I walk my dog back in there. So anyway, I appreciate everybody talking. And I get anxiety talking too, so I'm sorry about that. So my question is, why are we accepting people from outside our area? I would love to help the people in Portage County. But you start bringing them in from outside our state of Wisconsin, wrong. And why are they coming here? Because we probably give them too much. We're too nice. It's nice to be nice. But when you're attracting people from outside our area, way outside our area, we're too nice, perhaps. And I'd like to know, are people, and I'm not sure you can answer, we have the people here, are these people being interviewed? I'm sure they are. And I know there's people out there mentally challenged. They can't work, I know that. Or handicapped and they can't work. I was a drill instructor in the Navy for 6 years. You can work with a lot of people, but we got different guidelines to work with. And some just don't make the program, but we have people to help them. While they're still within the boot camp area, we have medical, psychological tests, stuff like that to help them out before we finally discharge them. So they do need help in that area, and I think it's great that the university
can provide some of this, that's a step in the right direction. So we need to find a place outside of a residential area. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Anyone else for the first time? All right, Mike.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question. Alderman, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Most of the people who've spoken about this shelter, I take it that the majority of the people speaking today are against it here. You represent that district. So at the council meeting, can we count on you as our alder person? Not mine personally, but I do own business there, to speak against this proposal. And the reason I say you're the guy who has to speak against it is you can tell by the attendance. I don't think there's any other alders in here, are there?
Yes.
Okay, one. That kind of shows you what their concern is.
Another one earlier.
That kind of shows you what their concern is, because I talked to 3 of them.
Well, we purposely did that, Mike. This is a District 10 listening session.
I know that.
There's 2500 people roughly in each district.
That, right.
There's nowhere near 2,500 people there, but
I know that,
we have legal requirements. Well, then why are you bringing it up?
So let me ask you this question then. Have you had anybody in your district or ward call you and say, I love this idea, let's do it?
I have not.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Go ahead.
One follow-up question. So it's my understanding that there's limited paid staff for the warming shelter, and there's a lot of volunteers, or they request a lot of volunteers. To run 365 days, that requires a lot. Do we have adequate paid staffing to ensure that there's adequate supervision during the hours of operation? Because everybody knows at some point there's going to be volunteer fatigue. And what happens when you don't have staffing to properly monitor what is going on here?
Yep, and I'll turn that question over to the group that's going to be running it, because it won't be the city.
So there will always be 2 paid staff there, always, okay? And we're working on funding mechanisms. Partnering together is backstopping the group that's doing it. And just so you know, insurance-wise, we're required to have 2 paid staff there. So for our liability insurance, and Michelle and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong.
We have liability insurance.
Michelle, I'm going to need you to come up to the lectern because nobody can hear you unless it's mic'd. It'll pick it up from where you are.
I'm Michelle Stusser-Goldman, and I currently run the warming shelter out of Frame. I worked there last year, and I took it over this year. We have sexual molestation insurance, we have liability insurance, we have workman's comp and personal injury. Can I give a background?
Absolutely, and if you can, speak to the training that your staff goes through as well.
My staff, I have a staff member, Samantha, that spoke. She is a leader of NAMI, Mental Health Institute, mental health, she works with mental health. One of my board members is a national, I'm sorry, I'm just like losing it right now. I'm so nervous. He is the National Stay-at-Home Dads Network. He's a part of a bunch of different affiliations throughout the United States. One of my staff members has been there for 3 years. We also have, we work closely with the Stevens Point Police Department. We have housed this year, we opened November 1st. We have housed 68 people. Out of those 68 people, we kicked out 2. Last year at this time, there was 8 or 9 kicked out, and there were 12 police calls. As of now, 0 police calls. We've kicked out 2 people this year. Why? Why have we kicked out 2? Because we can't house them, because I don't have medically trained staff to house somebody who's incontinent, and we can't change their diapers in the shelter. That's over us. That is a medical facility. We, like I said, we're fully insured. We have 2 staff on 24, when we're open. We do kick them out. I understand. I shouldn't say kick them out. We ask them to leave. We are paid. Our money is partnering together. It is financial donations from people. It is sponsorships. We don't get backing from the city. I got city permits. I got city approval. I have staff. Yes, I do have staff. Would I like to pay them till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning when the library opens? Originally, that was the plan. No, we can't afford it. Would we be able to pay till the library opens or till 9 o'clock in the morning? Yes. Do my guests stay on the property? No, they don't. Do I have a couple sexual offenders that are there? I do. I understand the fear. I totally do. Do they know what their extents are and what their limitations are? They do. Do I come down on them? They do. 2 of my guests that already, we've only been open for a little over a month. One of them went to rehab. One of them has a job and moved out of the shelter. Of all my guests, I would say maybe a third aren't from the area. I do intake. I check backgrounds. I check CCAP. Have we hired a couple people that maybe we shouldn't have?
With a criminal history?
With a criminal history. Maybe.
Violent criminal history.
Yes.
And then asking your
All right, wait, hang on here. We're not going to go through this in and out, back and forth. We've gone through this a bunch of times already.
I'm just going to...
Everyone should know the safety concerns.
Oh, listen.
And you will have another opportunity to speak if you'd like. But right now, please show the same respect that every other speaker, mostly, has been shown, and let them go one at a time.
I apologize. You're right for that.
We have staffing. We have people. We have rules. They follow our rules. They don't follow our rules. They know they're on the streets. They're getting better. We've had 2 people that were intoxicated. They know they have to come in sober. One of them quit. One of them quit drinking. They're improving. They want to stay. They want a place to stay.
Thank you.
Again, I just want to point out that we did hire a felon, and that's the staffing that we have that's going to be running this in our neighborhood. Thank you.
My name is Jim Buck, and I live at 1424 Oxbow Road, Stevens Point. To address the councilman, to say that this meeting represents your constituents, I think is a faulty assumption. So I don't think you should be put on the spot and say, because the majority of the people here seem to be opposed, that you are required to oppose it. So, trying to let you off the hook.
Thanks, Jim. No, it's true. There's roughly 2,500 people in every district.
Okay. As far as the location of a liquor store, I can speak with some experience about liquor stores. I've been sober 15 years. So I've got some experience with liquor stores. And it doesn't matter if that liquor store is across the street or in the next county. If you want liquor, if you're an alcoholic, you're going to get it. And then as far as predicting what the house values, property values would be, I'd like to talk to that realtor that predicted a huge drop in property values. I've been a real estate broker in Stevens Point for 28 years, and I'd like to meet that guy because I want to know how he can predict that. Because if I could do that, I'd be one rich son of a bitch.
Thank you. Ma'am?
I do want to bounce off what he said. He did make a good point about the liquor store, as others have, before I go into the rest. To put individuals who do have problems with alcohol and drugs, for some of them, to put them next to a liquor store really isn't fair to them. Some of them, there are some that don't really want to get better. I think we all know you can only help someone as much as they want to help themselves. But to put the ones that do genuinely want to get help and are struggling next to an environment that promotes their addiction really is not fair to them either. And the next thing, I did want to bounce off what Michelle said about admitting hiring individuals who she probably shouldn't have. I was there actually with 2 other staff members and another volunteer the night of an incident where a newly hired staff member was exhibiting aggressive behavior, trying to push volunteers out. I actually, just so you guys know, had been friends with Michelle and Tracy prior, since last season, and we did have each other's contact information. I did let them know what was going on after they had asked me to keep an eye on the new staff because they didn't trust their new staff members. I was there and had proceeded to give him the information about how his body language was, the things he was saying, very angry that I was there as a volunteer, which was very confusing to me. Got in the car, called Tracy, let her know what was going on. There were several comments made about how they themselves were scared of this staff member, to the point where they needed 5 individuals the following night to fire him because of his behavior. I was told that 6 board members had approved his hiring, knowing his criminal record. After I found out about it and I was discussing this individual, I was called out by Michelle in front of staff members and told that I was being obsessive and to stop discussing the matters, as I should not be involved in staff matters as a volunteer after I was engaged in the conversation multiple times about him by the staff members that night. So I was kind of taken back. Then I CCAP'd him, found his criminal record, and realized why she did not want me discussing it. Because other staff members, newly hired staff members, did not know that they were also working with a felon with history of battery, domestic violence. I mean, there's other charges, but you get the point. He was a felon. I, as a volunteer, had to sign a waiver releasing that I would not sue them for any liability and getting hurt or anything like that. Like I said, there are individuals who are sex offenders and who are criminals that have committed violent acts in the homeless community, which is why I did have a taser. I should not feel like I need to tase a staff member if they come after me or they're going to hurt me. Staff and volunteer are supposed to be there to back up and protect each other, have each other's backs. You shouldn't have to worry about a staff member hurting you. I actually told Michelle and Tracy multiple times I was more scared about this staff member than I had been about any other guest there. My comments did go quite dismissed. I did end up sending you, Mike Wiesa, some information, as well as the chief of police, the pastor of the church, and partnering together to discuss the situation that had happened. That was so unacceptable to leave me there with new staff and as a volunteer to then report back about this man's activity when they themselves were afraid. Not okay. I know there's been a lot of interchanging hands on warming shelter operations, and people have a lot to say about the previous organization. I can't disagree with some of that stuff, honestly. There's been good and bad in both, but I think there should be some more transparency on the trials and tribulations of the current organization. There's been a lot of talk about the good things. It's just not as transparent as I think probably should be. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to know, and I'm sorry those things happened. Along the same lines as we talk about proper training for staff and background checks, it just occurred to me that I got an email, I believe this is open to the public. NAMI of Portage County and Wood Counties is doing crisis intervention partner training March 4th and 5th. It doesn't say where it is. I assume it's at the NAMI offices. But if anybody's interested in that, I can certainly put you in touch with them. It's education regarding crisis and mental health illness. I think all of the officers of the police department have been trained in it. I've taken the course myself a couple of times over the years. It's pretty enlightening, talking about how to interact with people with mental health issues or addiction issues, and we talked a little bit about that tonight. There is a liquor culture in Wisconsin. Just thinking about this, it's hard to find a location in the city where you don't have to walk too terribly far to get alcohol. This location, we got PJ Jacobs right there, the Boys and Girls Club. Just a few blocks away, there's a convenience store that sells alcohol.
There's Partners.
There's a bar that sells alcohol. Downtown, where the shelter currently is, I mean, I don't even know how many bars there are downtown. And some of them sell alcohol that aren't a bar or a restaurant. But if you think about that, it's actually a little eye-opening. Places in town where you've got to walk a half a mile to get a drink. That's an issue in and of itself that I think we need to start addressing as a community. And we got kids living right next door to a liquor store. Sir, if you would be so kind, that woman hasn't spoken yet at all. If we could allow the people who haven't spoken yet to get a turn, and then we'll keep going back to those who
Hi, I'm sorry. Donna Holm, 2832 Henrietta, and I'm across the street, kitty corner from here. But unless I haven't heard and I don't know a lot about everything, that's why I'm here. In this space that you are right now looking at, what does it look like on the inside, and what are you going to do? How many people will be able to stay in there on one given night? You know, how many is it going to house? And how many people that you know of are actually in the community versus what could go into this place? Is there a basement and a first floor? So that was something. And are they allowed to have animals there?
Sure. I'll get the questions answered for you.
Yeah.
Again, the city isn't going to be running this. We are looking at giving the group a grant to acquire the property so they can raise the money, make all the changes. But I know that there are people here representing that. I can tell you, because I've been inside the building, it was an Oddfellows fraternal organization.
Mm-hmm.
So 90% of the building is open space, much like this. It was for lodge meetings, and I imagine they had benches and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a second floor. In the second floor, there is a kitchen area and a bathroom, and an area that I don't know, I'm finding some other things out tonight, but I think that's where they were going to put the laundry facilities, and that's, again, just another big open area. On the first floor, they do have two, I guess you could call them office-type spaces. They're not terribly large, but they are just adjacent to the front door off of Division, and then you walk in, and then there's a little hallway and two office-type rooms, and then after that is a big open area, bigger than this. And then as far as the number of people, that would be determined under the conditional use permit. And as far as pets, that would also be determined under the conditional use permit, or the users will determine that themselves. That's not something that the city would require or not require.
Okay. Well,
So I'll let them speak to that if they choose to once
so I
everybody
didn't know
gets
how
around.
many, like, beds or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of that
How
stuff
many
is
people
is
would be
governed
in
by
there?
the Uniform Building Code and the Commercial Dwelling Code. You have to have so much space per person, and that's even if you want to squeeze them in there, and I don't think that's anybody's goal, is to squeeze them in like sardines. But there are requirements based on occupancy. This room, for example, the sign right there says we can have 49 people in here. We have 49 chairs. Generally speaking, if you don't have a chair, we're over limit, and that's why we have an overflow room. But we still have some empty chairs, so we're okay. But yeah, all of that, it would be governed first and foremost by the Uniform Building Code and the Commercial Dwelling Code, and then by the conditional use permit that the Partnering Together group would have to apply for. I think the warming center right now, the nighttime warming center, started out as 12, we heard that earlier, and they increased it to 20. So that is
Okay.
currently the limit.
Do they have any plans for this place? Is there anybody that,
I will let them speak to it once we go around again.
okay.
First, I want to contradict that our aldermen's constituents aren't here? Because we are here.
We are.
The 4 or 6 blocks around that building, I know a lot of names in here, and I recognize a lot of faces walking by my house or me walking by their house. So his constituents are here. That building is going to affect. Then the other comment I want to make is, Mike, you made the comment that there's some people that just choose to be homeless. Why are we coddling them? Why are we coddling them? And there's no better word than coddling, because they're choosing that lifestyle. They're capable of working. They choose not to work. They choose to be supported. And we are coddling them. So how do we vet those people out? Because they don't belong there. They don't belong there. And somehow you got to get them out.
Yeah, the simple answer for that is the people who choose to follow the rules and seek help will get it. The ones who cannot or will not follow the rules, as I said earlier, the council has committed to that ordinance change that allows us to do some enforcement.
That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking. There are people that choose to be homeless. They're healthy. They're mentally healthy. They're not drunks. They're not drug addicts. They choose to be homeless. And we're going to support them. We are coddling them. We are letting them live that lifestyle. I don't need to support those people. I understand mental illness. I get that. I know addiction is a disease. I get it. But not people that just, their addiction is living on the street in the cold. Why are we coddling these people?
That's a very valid point. We've had 2 people this year already, the police chief told me, that have lost toes because of frostbite, because they choose to either not follow the rules, or maybe in some cases there isn't shelter space available. But you're absolutely right. I can't force someone to get a job any more than I can force you to become a plumber. Wait, you're not a plumber, right? You know what I mean, though, right? I don't get to force someone to get a job or to buy a house or to have kids.
But you're forcing us to pay for them. You're forcing us to pay for those people that...
Through our tax dollars, we're already paying for all of those problems.
I understand
through
that,
the services.
But now we're offering them a better shelter.
Yeah. You're right. That's valid. Ma'am?
I will just follow up with that real quick before I came up here for what I came up here for. The percentage of people who are able-bodied, in good health, and choose to not live in societal standards is very low. And those are not the people that we're servicing at our warming shelter. In my 7 years at the warming shelter, I probably came into contact with less than 5 individuals who were choosing to be unhoused, and that was because of trauma that they experienced in different shelters in trying to get help, not because they were just living off of the system. And I have found through all of my different research and schooling and work and experiences that those who can work will work. It's hard to expect someone to maintain a job when they don't have regular showers, when they can't regularly clean their clothes. I have known so many individuals unhoused who have gotten a job and worked really hard at keeping that, but they got fired because they couldn't keep up the hygiene on a regular basis. They couldn't keep up the laundry services on a regular basis. Because as soon as someone starts to work, and maybe they're receiving other benefits, those benefits change. So they're not in a place where they can get ahead and get to a place of stability before they start losing resources. I came up here to say, I am a member of NAMI Portage Wood County, and the CIP training is March 5th and 6th, Thursday, Friday. It will be held here at the police department. It is free to community members. Once registration is open, that'll be sent out to different community organizations and posted for people to sign up space is limited because, again, the room only holds so many people. But I just wanted to clarify the date and the location.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll say it again, it's good training. Even if you never have to use it, it's eye-opening and it's good training that you may use at some point in your life, homeless issues aside, right? Everybody's got a couple of coworkers. Heck, my neighbors live next to me, so they probably need some of that too. Go ahead.
My name is Terrence. I'm at 1608 Ellis Street. And I just have a few comments, and that is that this struggle and the wrestle that our community is facing here is not, we're not alone in this. There's a lot of communities across the country who are doing the same thing. And I'm really thankful for our town leadership, and I'm thankful for the people who care for these communities. And I'm thankful for people standing up and saying how this change will influence them. I know that some of the initial momentum for this project came from concern about downtown. I just want to throw out that I hope that, you know, as we keep working with those momentum, that we find something that is respectful and honoring to everyone. And it sounds like this is really challenging because we're saying we want them to have access to resources, we want them to access to a bus and access to laundromats and stores. But then we also don't want them too close to our homes. And it's like, how do you do that? And so I know there's a lot of people saying things on both sides and people trying to understand, and I just appreciate that. And I just wanted to point out and say that this is hard, and I'm just happy to be a part of this community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
George Lepak, 2708 Henrietta. Did you ever check into the building, I forgot, the big building across from Skips?
Big building across from Skips. The Monroe House?
Is it the
turn of the century? So it's turn of the century. That's where Monroe House was. Turn of the century, yeah.
How many openings they have there? Do they have any rooms there?
Yeah, I don't know right now. I think they had 20 units in that building. That's privately owned. It's been a rooming house forever, for as long as I can remember.
How about the upstairs of Skips Bowling Alley?
That's a private business. Yep, they use that for.
Talk to them of.
They use that. They use that to generate revenue. They have birthday parties and weddings and such up there.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been a while. Or the bicycle, where you used to pick up bicycles right by the band shell. There's a white building with the round.
Yeah, we call that the old Central Company building. That's currently used for all of the city storage.
Storage?
Right.
What do they store?
Gold, silver, all of
now
our.
You're getting condescending.
No, I want people to break into it. No, I'm kidding.
It seems like it's.
We store.
Pick on everybody. You start yelling.
We store city property. The bottom line is, sir, these weren't considered because they're not viable options. Okay, that Central Company building is old and by all rights should be torn down. We store our Christmas decorations in there, old light poles. Sometimes we store equipment in there. We use it during Riverfront Rendezvous for restrooms that we had to remodel. Well, you asked what we do there. The basement is uninhabitable. There's mold. There's water coming in the basement. There's no heat. There's no air conditioning. Anyone else?
I have a comment if no one else
has any
comments. This has been an ongoing problem. Again, I'm an alderman here. My name is Sean Morrow. I'm the alderperson for Area 11. This has been an ongoing problem. It's an overgrowing problem. And as it's been also said, we are not the only community who has this. If there's anybody in the community who I think could really handle this and do something with this, I think it's Mr. Hansel and Jane Johnson. I mean, I know there were problems with the other vendor that we also had because there are a lot of services. We have a ton. I was writing down all the services that we have here. And working with probation parole, I've had several folks who have used these, and they have worked. They've been homeless. There's a person on my block who was homeless for a while. I didn't I wasn't even aware of this before she moved in, but she was homeless. She was in a bad relationship. She had problems with her kid, and she used a lot of the services, and she's now trained, and she's doing really, really well. One of the problems is you're going to have that group, well, plus with a probation, parole, Salvation Army has been really good. When they would have anyone come in, they'd ask if they were on probation or parole, and if they were, they would make sure that their agent was aware. Like probation, parole cannot transfer someone here from like any other county because it's not a full-time place. It's a temporary place. So like Milwaukee can't dump anyone up here. Like we can't dump anyone down there. They have to end up having a plan. There has to be a permanent address. It cannot be I'm going to live at the Stevens Point warming shelter. They would not be able to transfer here. And if they were here, their agent's aware of that, they are sent back. If they do not go back, they're going to issue a warrant for them and make sure they do go back. So if someone's on probation, parole, any sex offender who would want to be here, they would have to be transferred here. They're not going to be transferred to a homeless shelter. I mean, that's not going to happen. The department's not going to allow that to happen. I've never seen that. And in regard to sex offenders being around schools, the 10 years that I was here, not once did I have anyone that was trolling around a school. They were doing it. And like one of the other people who I spoke, there might have been some other problems, but it was an aunt, uncle, something like that. I mean, do things happen at times? Yes, that is Department of Corrections. Things do also occur. A lot of the homeless problems are a lot of the nuisance crimes, trash, retail theft, and there's going to be that portion that no matter what you do, no matter what services that we have, they're not going to partake in that. That's why I hope that the rules are going to be followed, so that we don't allow folks to just kind of grift off of the services that we have. A prime example of that, I have two folks. They're on SSDI. They bring in like $3,000 a month, and they were going around trying to get money for rent. I'm like, no, you make $3,000. Why can't you pay your $700 in rent? And that is because you're going to have that portion who are just going to try to sponge. Everyone's going to try to hustle. I mean, that's just. And the reason why main reason why someone is homeless, that's not really the problem. It's why are they homeless? And what Jane Johnson said, there are a lot of silos. There are a lot of programs that we have. Any barrier that you could think of for someone to be homeless, there's a program for that. I don't have a ride to work. There's a program for that. I can't find my meds. There's a program for that. I don't take my meds. There's med monitoring for that. I have mental health problems. There's services for that. Part of having a mental health problem is not thinking you have a mental health problem. I mean, if you really think the folks in the TV set are talking to you, I mean, you don't think that's weird. I mean, if their voices in your head are saying things, I mean, you don't think anything's wrong with that. I mean, that's part of having the mental illness. That's why they have the programs there. We have HSS for that. We have NAMI for that as well. We have everything. Getting people there. We have programs that will get you to your therapist, take you to get your meds, take you to any counseling session. We have AA meetings, NA meetings, NAMI meetings, CAP services for if you need problems to get, if you were out of a job, if you're a single mom and you can't find a job, they have the W-2 program. They will pay for you to have internet, childcare, housing, laptop for you to end up going to school to get a job. I've had people have taken advantage of those things. We have the SSET program as well. That's a federal program. They will help pay for you to go back to school to get a job. But again, if people don't want to engage in that, I mean, this is the United States of America. You can make as many bad decisions as you want. You have the right to totally screw up your life. There are consequences to that, but if that is your choice, that is what your choice is. I have seen a lot of folks who are in the past 6 years, more and more folks are choosing to be homeless. That's not what I would want to do. And I have folks who live out in tents, folks who take advantage of all this services. When was the last time you saw a homeless person that didn't have a cell phone? So there are programs for everything. And some people just use those bits and pieces to kind of like hustle to what they're, for what they want. And a lot of those people come to people like me. And there are consequences for that too. So if you're trying to find a quick fix, there is going to be no fix to the homeless. There's always going to be there's always going to be that part. There's going to be some that are going to cause more. It's like in crime. 10% of the population causes like 80% of the crime, and this is going to be an ongoing problem. But if at some point, some people make that choice of like, I'm tired of sleeping outside. I'm tired of having nothing. I'm tired of starting over. I'm tired of diving through the dumpster for Pizza Hut. At some point, people get tired of that. And then they come to that realization, like, maybe I don't want to sleep outside when it's 20 degrees outside. And they try to like move forward with that. Sometimes it takes time, just like with AODA services for drug and alcohol abuse. Just because you go through rehab once doesn't mean you're cured. You will relapse from time to time. You might go through treatment a couple times with mental health as well. Just because you're on your meds once doesn't mean you're always going to stay on your meds. You can end up talking to the jail about that. Folks get on their meds, then they end up getting off their meds, and they go back to things that then they end up back in jail again. They get back involved with their mental health worker, their case workers, and so on. And there's a cycle. And how do you stop that cycle? You just try to provide them with the services, but there are going to be that portion that whatever we do, it's not going to be enough, and people are going to continue with what they're actually doing. And we have this services, and my only hope is that it is for Stevens Point, for people here in Point. And if people do get farmed out here, because that we are aware of that, and folks aren't trying to really take advantage of us.
Thank you, Alderperson. Ma'am, thank you for waiting patiently.
Yes, I would like to interject on your comment on the sex offenders. My attacker, when he was released, they go right back to the communities they commit the crime in. No one wants them. He was let go.
That's a policy, too.
Yeah, I know it's a policy. I had to move out of state because of it, because I kept seeing him. You put him right in the YMCA, right at the Salvation Army. I had to leave the YMCA. I couldn't work out there anymore. I couldn't go to my grocery store. He was always there. He was in my neighborhood because guess what? I chose to move back into the same neighborhood because I like the neighborhood. McKinley's right there. So my biggest concern is vetting these people. Is this going to be a halfway house like you're using the Salvation Army? Because I'm sorry, they do not belong in our communities. They do not belong with the victims. I shouldn't live in fear, and I don't want more of them in my neighborhood. They need a better place to go. You need a better solution. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And again, I apologize that you had to deal with that stuff. We get that on occasion, and Sean's right. It's a policy set at the state level. We have sex offenders, in some cases violent sex offenders, that are released back to the community that they came from. And in some cases recently, past several years, they can be left homeless. I don't understand how that's even possible, but I went all the way up to the state level, and they've talked about, oh, well, you know, they have rights and they get this. But I contend that you put restrictions on them, you meaning the Department of Probation and Parole, put restrictions on wearing your ankle bracelet, not indulging in alcohol or drugs, so many feet away from a school, no contact with the victims. Make another condition that you have 60 days to find stable housing. I don't think it's that hard to do. But I've continually been stonewalled by the state when we make those requests. Thank God we have some people in law enforcement, Sheriff Lucas in particular, former Representative Katrina Shanklin, that have found solutions to some of those challenges, but not all of them. So that is a big issue, and I'm sorry you have to continue to deal with that. Forcing the victims out of their neighborhoods seems just plain old wrong. Ma'am?
I'm just a little confused. So we had a debate before this actually started, and there seems to be some misunderstanding between you and the people who are running this. For instance, you thought it was a 24/7 shelter, right? So I'm concerned that the city is trying to help without full clarity of what is going on. And if it's my understanding that this is still going to be a shelter with the same hours that they're operating at now, and that the day services are going to be in a different building and actually closer to downtown, why are we moving it?
It's a good question.
I heard somebody say it's because the people downtown are complaining. And I do believe this is because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah, correct.
So if there's no change, no added benefit, other than moving it out of downtown, why are you hurting us? That's all.
Good question.
Can I address that?
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm okay if there's a different location, as long as there's a location. After a lot of time, right? Like what I'm a proponent for is that these things come into place. And the reality is the city partnering together, that is a collaboration of different nonprofits, and you all, and all the neighbors across the city, we're gonna have to work together, because it's together that we're going to be able to figure this out and come up with the best possible solutions and know where this is. So, you know, as Mayor Mike said, this isn't the first place that's been looked at. It's been a long time in process. I hear your concerns, and some of your concerns are very legitimate, and they need to be addressed. But in the end, if we can, together as a community, provide services for our neighbors, we will all be safer, and we will all be more secure. So I think the answer lies amongst us and within us, and us working together to get these pieces put together. I am grateful for the city for coming alongside and trying to help us find the place. There's not going to be a perfect place. It is almost impossible to find housing if you're on the sex offender list, because there are so many restrictions to where they can live. So yeah, they do end up homeless. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have them working with some folks and trying to find some answers rather than off on their own, not trying to figure it out. Another thing that we have to remember is that word felon gets thrown around a lot. If they've done the time and they've paid their time in jail, they deserve a second chance. They deserve a second chance.
We're not going to debate second chances, so if that's what you're going to say, just sit right back down. We're talking about the location of the warming center, not about society's rules and what they should or should not be.
My attacker was a repeat.
That's good to know.
So you're going to be bringing more of them back into the community. So yes, I have a concern. And I'll leave it at that.
There are people in this room that have had second chances and failed, and third chances and failed, and fourth chances and failed. And I would argue that some of them have even more than that. Myself included. You, smiling. Bet you've failed a few times, haven't you? Yeah, we all do. That's part of being human. It's what you do with it afterwards that matters. But to lump us all together, I don't think that's fair either. Now, my personal beliefs are mine, and I'll keep them that way. But this isn't about debating whether or not people deserve any chances. We're talking about a facility that will act as a shelter, provide services, and arguably is in a partially residential neighborhood. That's what we're talking about tonight.
I will say that, yeah, second chances are great, and multiple chances over and over. It depends on what you're doing and where you're at in the position. Someone who's in charge of multiple people should not have 2 pages long of a rap sheet. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've got that down here. Proper training and background checks is one of the conditions. So we will absolutely take that to heart.
Great. I also would like to say what I'm hearing from the majority of the people, or actually everyone who talked, isn't that they don't think homeless don't have rights or don't deserve basic humanity. That's not what I heard anyone say. I heard them say that they have problems with where this is going to be located. And I think that all of those considerations are valid. Rather than having leadership point fingers, make condescending comments, you should probably address those, because those people live here. They came here, they had enough guts to come up to the stand and talk about how they feel, and they deserve to be heard, and they should be heard by leadership, not just everyone else who agrees with them. If you care about the community that you are representing, you need to take that into consideration, and with the comments that you're making, it doesn't feel that way. And it really does suck, because like I told my mom before, we came in here, I really did like you, but sitting here and listening to how you were talking to us before the meeting had started, that was really disappointing, because I voted for you thinking, so I'm not saying that you don't deserve a second chance to me personally, but please don't blow it, because I probably won't vote you if you do it again. So thank you.
Thanks.
I think we need to call a spade here. All this is about is getting it out of downtown. We've got services offered. All this is about getting the people off the sidewalks downtown and moving them to a different set of sidewalks. Moving the litter to a different set of sidewalks into a different green space instead of downtown. You want them out of downtown, and you don't care where you're going to put them. This is the cheapest way to do it, to get them out of downtown. That's all this is about. Right or wrong? I mean, you got to admit to it. You've got to admit to it.
No,
You've already got services
I don't.
available. This is about moving them from downtown away from downtown.
Absolutely.
So now you're moving them in. So the trash is coming with them. All you're doing is moving them into a residential. You could say it's partially residential. You're right. Church Street isn't residential, but every other part of it is. Every other part of that is a residential area. So you're moving them right into the center of a residential area, so that your downtown doesn't have them. That's what this is about. You're absolutely right. The squeaky wheel got the grease. Your business owners were barking, so now you got residents barking. I mean, you won't admit
everybody
it.
Squeaks.
But you won't admit it. All this, the bottom line here is you don't want them downtown, so you don't care where you put them.
That is a piece of it.
It's the whole thing.
That's not the whole thing.
Because you got services.
So you can think what you want, squeaky wheel. But the bottom line is, a 365 shelter is the goal here. Providing something that people have the place to go 365 days of the year and not get kicked out at 6:30. Provide the services that they have in one location, more of a one-stop shop, which is what I intended this to be in the first place. Looks like it's changed a little bit to that from now, but until we get that figured out, we're out where we are. What we're looking at doing right now is offering up a grant for $150,000 to buy this facility. If this facility doesn't work, we'll just continue to look. So that's really what it comes down to. But yes, moving it out of downtown is a big piece of it.
It's the whole piece.
It is not the whole piece. Go ahead, ma'am.
So I have a question separate from my trauma, because there's a lot of trauma, obviously. Do you know why they're downtown? Because I'm downtown all the time. I bike through that area. They're there because there's power. Cut off the power. They're out of downtown. Have you thought about that?
That's not true, because the power is limited.
I see them plugged in all the time in the band shell.
So the band shell shouldn't have any power going through it right now. I'll double check tomorrow. They were using power down on the square. We put boxes over that are lockable.
Go to the library.
But the library is available. The Franciscans are available. There are other outlets that aren't ours, the cities, that they've used. Shopko was a big one. They used to sit in the alcove of Shopko. That's a piece of it. But in talking with them, the warming center is downtown. The Franciscans are downtown. The library is downtown. They're close to Health and Human Services. Those are the reasons that most give for staying downtown. That, and they don't get harassed, because on private property, if someone complains, your house, for example, if someone comes on your private property, you get to file a police report. The police will come and remove them or arrest them. We don't have those same rules that apply in public spaces. I can go stand on the sidewalk right now, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. If I want to take a nap on that sidewalk right here, there's nothing anyone can do about it. We actually encourage people to come downtown. We put in, as I said earlier, benches. Here, come on downtown, sit, do nothing, enjoy the music, have a drink. It's encouraged. We asked the council probably 2 years ago to be able to close the square, like the parks are closed at 11.
Yeah.
To close the square for like 2 hours, just so the law enforcement had a mechanism to remove people who were sleeping there. That was denied. And as I said, we've got the council agreement now that if we come up with this 365-day shelter, something where people can go to at all hours of the day, then they will enact again, we're calling it a no camping ordinance, but basically that's what it is. You wouldn't be able to take a nap downtown.
So the loitering will then possibly go into place.
Loitering is a tough phrase, and I was hoping I could avoid it, but I won't. Loitering is defined basically as being somewhere and doing something that the space is not intended for.
Which is what they're doing.
Is it? Sitting downtown?
Camping downtown, sleeping downtown.
Sleeping in between
Is that loitering? I mean, we put benches out there. If I go downtown tomorrow and take a nap over my lunch hour, is that loitering?
What about the business doorways?
Business doorways are different. That's private property. And most of the businesses downtown have sent something on record with the police department, so they can't do that. So if that's seen now in most businesses, the police will kick them out of there because that's trespassing. There are a couple of businesses downtown, Franciscans being one of them. The old Gruba Jewelers, if anybody remembers what that is, the kitty corner building from the Franciscans, they've both refused to not allow anyone to stay there. So you'll see that a lot. But generally speaking, all of the other businesses have something on record. And if there's any businesses watching or listening that haven't done that want to, send an email to the police department letting them know that no one has permission to be on your property, sleeping in the alcoves or even hanging out in the alcoves, and law enforcement can take care of it at that point.
Okay, so what about community member like myself where I am getting them in my yard?
You need to file a police report, and they should be responsive. If they're not, you can call the police chief, you can call myself. If they're sleeping in your yard, that's trespassing.
Not so much sleeping. It's a lot. I get a lot of people in my yard waiting to go to the food pantry, and I don't want to be that evil person to be like, please get out of my yard. I have a double lot. It looks like it could quite possibly be a park. No, it's my yard.
You could start with maybe just putting up a no trespassing sign. If it's bothering you, though,
build a fence.
You could build a fence. If it's not bothering you, then that's okay too, right? It doesn't have to bother you. But if it does and you need something done about it, then contact law enforcement or some of the other things. Put up just a simple no trespassing sign, or maybe just. I know it's not easy for a lot of people to do, but just go ask them. Say, hey, this is my yard. Can you not sit in my yard?
I have.
Okay, then it would be time for the next step.
My other question with that is, are you going to ramp up the police patrolling in that area?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I was just wondering if, like, you know, I personally, like, after volunteering with the homeless and everything, I knew that downtown was just kind of where they were going to reside. That's where a lot of cities, that's where they reside, you know. So I wasn't opposed to having them downtown, but I know the business owners and I understand the concern of how it looks and everything. But now that more people are expressing how they don't want it in a residential area, is there a way to keep it downtown? Like, there is that old Dunham's building. I don't know if it's, if anything's going on there. I kind of heard, okay. So maybe something, maybe more people could agree that it could be downtown now. I don't know. That's just kind of throwing it out there. Maybe more people would be okay with it being downtown now, but maybe more lockers. And if there's the ability to acquire mental health for the homeless that they don't have to pay for, maybe it could be a condition of the shelter. If they want to come into the shelter, that they have to show that they are actively participating in this mental health program, because they're getting mental health. You know, something, because the money to support all of this never-ending homeless crisis, I understand there's no quick fix, but if you can give them resources that really hit the main issue, maybe it could get better. Maybe that money could be used for getting the system a little bit better than just supporting the ever-growing crisis right now. You know, like, mental health is a problem, and it is really sad to see people who are not alcoholics or drug addicts who have schizophrenia be labeled as alcoholics and drug addicts because the general population thinks that's what they are. You know, it's not fair to them. I mean, their brain is like warfare 24/7, and I don't think any of us in the general population who don't have it or have experienced it know what that's like. That has to be insanely horrifying daily, every day. But they deserve mental health care. Everyone does. And obviously, if you're homeless, your depression's going to come, whether that was there before the homelessness or not. How can you not be depressed while being homeless?
Our taxpayers already are paying for mental health. We have HSS, we have staff, they have a whole building. We have a lot of services for that. We have caseworkers, social workers who will pick you up, take you there, monitor your meds, everything. And when it's homeless and they run off or they don't show up, that's one of the problems. But we do have services. We have a lot of services. We have great services here that our taxpayers, that our tax dollars pay for now. But again, that's part of having a mental illness.
Right. Is there a way to make it more motivating by offering something that they need, like shelter and stuff? I mean, I know it's kind of...
Do a ton of stuff.
Okay.
And it's like, still, we've given them houses, and then they get trashed. And then for some reason, the landlords don't want to rent to them anymore. And we've done that over and over again, and that's kind of perpetuated the problem. We don't have mental health facilities like we did in the 50s and so on, which were bad. But it's like that's one of the problems that every community has. I mean, we've tried giving people places to live, and then if they don't address the main problems, they get trashed, and that's why we have a limited amount of even slumlords now who are even renting anybody like that, because they don't want to have their place get totally destroyed.
Right. From what I heard, Wausau, the homeless center there has been, they're part of the city. They are very involved. They have a lot of different like caseworkers and stuff that specifically work at the shelter. I know we're not at Wausau scale.
That's the CPC Center, Community Partners Center. Okay. They have all their services there, and one of the problems that they have had is, okay, all your services are there, and they let them stay there, and so they stay there and they scroll all day.
Okay.
And they don't partake in the services.
Okay.
They've tried to change that to say, if you want to stay here, you have to partake in the actual services. You just can't sleep here, eat here, charge your phone here, and scroll all day.
Right. No, I can definitely understand. It's a very difficult situation, and just mental health care does need to be better and find a way to do that. But the last thing I'll say, I promise I won't come up here again, is that regardless of these individuals, just like I said, some of them are good, some of them are bad, but try to smile and be kind to them when you pass them by, because they're not all bad. And it really does not help their mental health if you're mean to them. And they really don't want to be on display for everyone in the downtown either. They've made comments about feeling like they are a circus or a show for people to just come look at, and like they don't want that either. And I know the growing concerns and frustrations of them being downtown has contributed to frustrations from people who pass them by, and that doesn't help them either. Honestly, downtown would be a better spot for them anyway, but they are people. Seeing them come to the shelter at night sad about how people treat them is really sad. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I really enjoy listening to you because, again, you have a better insight than a lot of people, some of them in this room. And I don't think that being downtown would be such a problem if they followed some of the more social standards, right? They have to carry everything they own with them. Otherwise it gets stolen or worse. So they have that. That's unsightly. They don't necessarily even have a change of clothes, so they look a certain way. Some of them have pets. I've gotten complaints where people are intimidated by the dogs. But these aren't things we discourage in our downtown either. So it's a lot about the way they look and the way they act. And it's not everybody, like you said. But if we could figure out better ways to not have those let's call it socially unacceptable things happen, I don't think downtown would be such a bad place for anyone to hang out.
I think we all agree with that.
So, yeah.
I think the issue is the proposal doesn't solve those issues, it moves the issues. And your understanding at the beginning of this is way different
Changed, yeah.
than what it is now.
I'm working on that one tomorrow.
That's why we came in, because we understood that.
Yeah.
And you argued with me.
And I'll apologize for that because at the time, that was what I had.
So,
but we'll get to the bottom of that one too.
So I think we collectively all agree this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And while nobody's going to be happy it's in their neighborhood, the solution that's being proposed right now is no different than what we have. It's just a different location.
I agree with you there.
That's not fair.
Based on what I found out tonight, I agree with you there. I'm going to let this gentleman speak, that gentleman speak, and then we'll get back to you, Alderperson Morrow.
John Quirk, 325 Front Street. I've worked for the city for 30 years, recording meetings like this one, and I just wanted to clarify. Maybe I might be wrong, but I think I've heard this same argument a million times. Only instead of a homeless shelter, sometimes it would be a liquor store, and it's always, well, we don't want that here. And sometimes it's a gas station. Well, we don't want that here. This situation is, correct me if I'm wrong, just because the city has agreed to give them a grant doesn't mean they could just operate a homeless shelter here, right? I mean, is it a conditional use or something? Or am I wrong?
So generally, you're right. The grant is offered conditionally to run a 365-day shelter. My understanding of that was that it would be 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day in that facility. My understanding of that is a little different now, and I got to figure out where I got my wires crossed. But the goal would be to have all of the resources in one place, or at least in very close proximity.
I mean, assuming we had all of that.
That would be a condition of the grant.
Yeah.
And while none of the details of that transfer to Partnering Together have been hashed out yet, the intent would be that this be providing homeless services as part of our agreement to give them the grant. I wouldn't, under any circumstances, support a grant to buy the building and then maybe they sell the building after a year. Oh, we can't do it. We're going to go somewhere else and do something else with it. That is not the intent of either side. The intent is, we need a facility to run all of these operations out of. Where can we go? Maybe it's not here. There are other places, but I can tell you, those places are going to have people living next to them, just like you said, and they're not going to want it there either. I bet if we bought Perkins, if they gave us Perkins, we'd have people complaining.
Sure. I'm just wondering about let's assume that you were 100% happy with what the plan was, and we said, this is a wonderful location, here's the grant. Is that all they need to open a shelter?
No.
Okay,
so the grant is only facilitating the acquisition of the property.
Right, so what else
That's the city's contribution, and they're fundraising for the rest of it. And I think, yeah, we still have a few here.
Right, but
so,
city-wise.
City-wise, that would be our contribution.
But is it a conditional use, so they would need?
They will require a conditional use to run a shelter out of that facility. They would meet all the building codes because we walked through that already. But yeah, it would still require a conditional use should we, hypothetically, should we select this location unilaterally? Should we get the grant and purchase the building and get an agreeable form to turn over the operations to Partnering Together? They would still have to come back, just like the nighttime warming center did, and get a conditional use permit that would go through the normal process of any other conditional use permit.
And then city council.
Yes.
So, okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thanks.
Gary Moss, 2800 Henrietta Street. I disagree with putting this homeless in this building because of the problems. We're kicking the can down the road to a residential area. Let's see if we can fix this up downtown and get them to stay there and take care of things that way. Another thing is, like you say, $150,000 for this building. Who's raising the money to fix the building up? Are they going to be able to house 30, 40 people, or 20 people, or 10 people? I don't know. And once they get out of there in the morning, where are they going? Tobacco outlet? Cemetery across the street? Nap there until they can come back to the house again? You know, this isn't right. This isn't a good spot for it. So I'm against it. Just want to go on record for that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Me again. What about, I don't know what your basement's like here. Do you have room? This room.
There's a small room in the basement. It handles most of the mechanicals, I believe.
My thoughts, monitoring. My big concern, it's monitoring. So is there a place that's going to be monitored 24/7? Because this looks like a pretty good room to me.
We use this room for other things.
I know, but you're kicking them out during the day.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
And it's a good spot. I'm sorry.
That's what the group said. That's what the group had said this evening, is that they would be asked to leave during the day.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Which also brings up a pretty good point. We haven't sorted out the details yet, but we've used this room in the past for heating, warming, and cooling centers for emergencies. It's my understanding that from our emergency manager that Saturday is supposed to be a high of -1. So it's very likely this room will be opened as a warming facility for that. We've used that before. Anyone else? Okay. This meeting is recorded. John, I assume tomorrow maybe we'll have it up?
Maybe tomorrow morning.
Okay, so it'll be on the city website along with all the rest of the videos.
I'm concerned because my attacker lives in Mosinee. Is there a way to keep me out of publicity?
No.
Damn it. Okay. I would like more patrolling around my house.
If you contact the police department, that's 100% legit.
Okay.
If that makes you nervous, talk to the police department. We can get you in with the officer tonight. There's a shift commander, a sergeant, that's on duty tonight.
We have castle law, right?
We do.
Okay.
Let's get out of here and have some coffee.
Fair enough.
Yeah. When is this going to be voted on?
So Monday, the Finance Committee last Monday conditionally approved at least moving forward into an offer to purchase on the building.
Okay.
So it'll be on the agenda for Monday. And so that'll be one piece of the vote. The next will be over the next couple of months, because like I said, even if this goes through and we purchase the building, we still would have to approve the agreement with Partnering Together. That'd be another couple of meetings. They would then require their conditional use, which would be another couple of meetings. So sometime between, their goal would be April 1st. So sometime between now and April 1st, there should be at least 4 or 5 other meetings.
I appreciate that, because I just heard some folks talking, when we're going to...
Keep an eye on the city website. We have the ability, if you go to stevenspoint.com, you can sign up to get a notice when agendas are released. I would strongly encourage you to partake of that, because it's kind of hard to remember to look at the city website to see what agendas are coming up and out. Or you could do that too, but if you sign up, you will actually get a notification when the Plan Commission agenda comes out, or the Finance Committee agenda, or the Common Council agenda. We will send those to you. If you determine that that's too much and this is the one issue that you wanted to know about, and once this is resolved one way or the other, you want to stop, you can certainly stop. But it's a tool you have at your disposal. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. We appreciate the input.